My ex-wife cheated on me with my golden child brother and gave birth to his baby. Now, my family, which always hated me, begs for money after I get promoted. Professional success. 3 years after the divorce, my career took a significant turn. A project I had been leading revolutionized our company's security protocol, saving millions in potential data breach costs. This success put me on the radar of industry leaders, and I was approached about an executive position at Cyber Finance, one of the largest financial technology firms in the country. The interview process was intense, 7 rounds over 2 months. When the offer finally came, it was beyond anything I had imagined, a compensation package that included not just an impressive salary but significant stock options, performance bonuses, and executive perks. Overnight, I went from comfortably middle class to potentially wealthy. With my new income, I bought a beautiful home in an exclusive neighborhood, not to show off but to create the peaceful sanctuary I had never had growing up. I invested wisely, following the advice of financial advisors at my new company. And I established a small foundation focused on educational opportunities for underprivileged students, particularly those interested in technology who lacked family support. For the first time in my life, I felt truly successful on my own terms. I had built something no one could take away from me, not my family, not a cheating spouse, not even my own self-doubt. I had proven, at least to myself, that I was worthy of success and respect. The family reappears. 7 years passed without contact from my family. I occasionally heard updates through distant relatives or former hometown acquaintances. Alex and Rachel had married shortly after my divorce was finalized but had separated after 3 years when he, unsurprisingly, cheated on her too. The family construction business was struggling after losing several major contracts. My parents were aging and dealing with health issues. I felt nothing but distant sadness at these reports. The anger had faded over time, replaced by a kind of emptiness where family feeling should be. I had created a new life, with new people who genuinely cared for me. The past was the past. Then, out of nowhere, an email appeared in my inbox from Alex's personal account. I almost deleted it unread, but curiosity won out. "Hey bro," it began, as if we were still teenagers sharing a bedroom rather than estranged relatives with a catastrophic history. "Hope this finds you well. I know it's been a long time and things didn't end well between us." The understatement was almost comical. He continued with news about our parents. Dad had been diagnosed with stage 3 colon cancer and was undergoing aggressive treatment. Mom had suffered a stroke 3 months earlier and required ongoing care. Medical bills were mounting, and insurance was covering less than half of the family business had been facing challenges for years, a euphemism for the financial mismanagement that had apparently occurred under Alex's leadership. They were behind on the mortgage for both the family home and the business property, facing potential foreclosure on both. Then came the real purpose of the message. "I heard through some industry connections about your position at Cyber Finance. Sounds like you're doing really well for yourself. I always knew you had it in you." The audacity was breathtaking, taking credit for my success after years of belittling my ambitions. "Look," the email continued, "I know we have a complicated history, and I'm not pretending everything can go back to how it was. But Mom and Dad are struggling, and this could be an opportunity for you to be the bigger person. They're still your parents, and they raised you the best they could." I sat with that message for hours, waves of emotion washing over me, anger, hurt, bitter amusement at the sheer nerve, and underneath it all, a small, persistent voice wondering if I did owe something to the people who had given me life, however flawed their parenting had been. Before I could decide how to respond, the floodgates opened. My mother called the next day, leaving a tearful voicemail about how much they missed me and needed my help during this difficult time. My father called too, his message a strange mixture of demand and accusation. "Your mother's asking about you every day. The least you could do is call her back. We're not getting any younger, and we could use some help from our son who's done so well for himself." Rachel reached out next, her message more complex. She apologized, not for the affair itself but for how things happened. She mentioned that Emma, now 9, had been asking questions about me. "She remembers you, you know. She calls you my first daddy sometimes. I've tried to explain things in an age-appropriate way, but she's curious about you." This message affected me more deeply than I wanted to admit. Despite everything, I had never stopped wondering about Emma, never stopped loving the little girl I had cared for in her earliest years. Then came the coup de grace, a group email from my father to me, copied to extended family members, family friends, and even a few business associates from his construction company. In it, he detailed their financial and medical struggles in painful specificity, the costs of each treatment, the penalties for late mortgage payments, the emotional toll on my mother. He wrote about my fortunate career advancement and heavily implied that my success was due to the strong values and work ethic they had instilled in me, a narrative so divorced from reality it would have been laughable if it weren't so infuriating. The email suggested that a monthly contribution from me could save the family business and help with their medical expenses, presenting it as an opportunity for reconciliation rather than the financial bailout it clearly was. The response from extended family was immediate. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years messaged me directly, urging me to do the right thing and not let old grudges get in the way of family. My father's former business partner called, suggesting that whatever happened in the past, family is family when times get tough. Most of these people had either never known the full story of what happened or had heard a heavily sanitized version where Rachel and I simply grew apart and she found comfort with Alex afterward. No mention of years of deception, a child whose paternity was concealed, or my family's complete betrayal during the divorce, the internal conflict. So here I am, trying to untangle a mess of emotions and ethical questions. Part of me feels a dark satisfaction in the irony of the situation. The golden child and the parents who always favored him now need help from the son they discarded. The success they never believed I would achieve is now their potential salvation. Another part of me recognizes that, despite everything, these are still my parents. They are aging, ill, and in genuine need. Whatever their failings as parents, and they were substantial, do I have an obligation to help if I can? If my father dies from his cancer, will I regret not having made some attempt at reconciliation, however limited? And then there's Emma. Innocent in all of this, carrying half my brother's DNA but with memories of me as her father. Does she need answers that only I can provide? Do I owe her some kind of relationship, some explanation? Even if Rachel and Alex don't deserve my consideration, financially, I could help them without it significantly impacting my lifestyle. But emotionally? I'm not sure I can engage with them without reopening wounds that have taken years to heal. I've worked hard to build a life free from the toxic dynamic of my family, and I'm wary of being pulled back into their orbit, yet complete indifference feels wrong too. Not because they deserve my help, but because turning my back completely would mean becoming something I've fought not to be, someone who can shut off compassion when it's inconvenient, someone who measures human worth by what others can provide. My questions: do I have any moral obligation to help the family that consistently undervalued me and sided against me during the worst betrayal of my life? If I do decide to provide financial assistance, how do I establish firm boundaries to prevent being emotionally manipulated or dragged back into toxic dynamics? Is there any way to have some kind of relationship with Emma without reopening all these old wounds? What might that relationship look like? How do I respond to extended family who are pressuring me but don't know the full story? Do I owe them an explanation, or is a simple "I'm handling this privately" sufficient? Am I the asshole if I choose to protect my hard-won peace by ignoring their pleas entirely? I've spent my whole life trying to prove I was worthy of love and respect. Now that I've finally found those things on my own terms, I'm being asked to sacrifice them for the very people who made me doubt my worth in the first place. And yet, turning away completely doesn't feel like the answer either. Any insights would be appreciated, especially from those who have navigated complex family estrangements or reconciliations. TLDR, my golden child brother had a years-long affair with my wife, resulting in a child I thought was mine. My family sided with them during the divorce. 7 years later, they're facing financial ruin and serious health issues and are reaching out for money after learning about my career success. I'm torn between satisfaction at the irony, lingering family obligation, and concern about what's best for the child caught in the middle. Edit. Wow, this post blew up overnight. Thank you all for your thoughtful responses, they've given me a lot to consider. I wanted to address some common questions and provide a few updates regarding Emma. Many have asked if I've maintained any legal rights or contact. The answer is no on both counts. During the divorce, Rachel initially offered some form of visitation but attached so many conditions, including financial support for her and regular interaction with Alex, that I declined. It was one of the hardest decisions of my life. I've thought about reaching out as Emma got older but feared disrupting her life further. Learning that she remembers me and asks about me has stirred up a lot of emotions about my parents' medical situation. I've done some discreet investigating through a mutual acquaintance who works at the hospital where my father is being treated. Their health issues are genuine. My father's cancer is advanced but treatable with aggressive therapy, and my mother has residual left side weakness from her stroke but has regained most of her cognitive function. Their financial struggles are also legitimate, though perhaps not as immediately catastrophic as portrayed. The family business. After taking over from my father, Alex made several high-risk investments that didn't pan out, took out additional loans against company assets, and mismanaged client relationships, losing several key contracts. The business is still operational but severely underwater financially. According to my source, Alex has been drawing a substantial salary despite the company's struggles. Rachel and Alex's relationship, they separated 3 years after getting together officially. According to mutual acquaintances, he cheated on her multiple times, including with a 24-year-old office manager at the family business. Karma, I suppose. Rachel is now a single mother living in a small apartment, working as a marketing manager for a local company. She's apparently struggled financially since the separation, as Alex's child support payments are minimal and often late. My current relationship status. Several people asked about this. After years of casual dating, I've been in a relationship with Megan for about 18 months. She knows my full history and has been incredibly supportive during this current family drama. She's actually encouraged me to consider meeting Emma, while maintaining firm boundaries with the rest of the family. Edit 2 Things have developed significantly since my original post. After reading all your comments and discussing the situation with Megan and my therapist, I decided to respond to my father's group email with a private email addressed only to my parents and Alex. I kept it factual and unemotional, stating that I would consider helping with specific medical expenses paid directly to healthcare providers, but I would not be contributing to the family business or providing open-ended financial support. I made it clear that any assistance would be contingent on acknowledging the truth of what happened 7 years ago and a genuine apology, not for the purpose of reconciliation, but for honesty and closure. The responses came quickly and were revealing of how little has changed. My father replied with a mixture of anger and indignation, accusing me of holding a grudge and using their suffering as leverage. He wrote that real family forgives without conditions and suggested I was still the same selfish boy I had always been. He ended by saying they would find another way and didn't need my charity with strings attached. My mother sent a separate email that was more conciliatory but still problematic. She acknowledged that mistakes were made on all sides and said she had always loved both her boys equally, a claim that made me actually laugh out loud given our history. She framed the past as a misunderstanding and suggested we start fresh without dwelling on things we can't change. There was no real acknowledgement of the depth of betrayal or their role in it. Alex didn't respond at all, at least not directly to me. I later learned from a cousin that he had been telling family members I was playing God with Dad's health because I was still bitter about ancient history. Rachel reached out again, this time with a more specific request. She asked if I would be willing to meet with Emma, who apparently has questions about her early life that Rachel feels unable to answer fully. Her message seemed more genuine than previous communications. I know I have no right to ask anything of you, and what Alex and I did was unforgivable. But Emma is innocent in all this. She's been asking more questions lately about when she was a baby. She has this memory of you reading to her every night, this specific dinosaur book you would do funny voices for. She remembers feeling safe when you held her. I've told her age-appropriate truths about the situation, including that Alex is her biological father but that you loved her very much when she was little. Meeting you would mean a lot to her, but I understand completely if this is too much to ask. This message affected me deeply. I do remember the dinosaur book, How Do Dinosaurs Say Goodnight? I read it to Emma every night before bed, doing different voices for each dinosaur. It was one of those small, precious rituals of parenthood that I had tried to forget but never really could. After careful consideration, I've decided to meet with Emma, potentially with the assistance of a family therapist who specializes in complex family situations. Rachel has agreed to this approach and has been surprisingly respectful of my boundaries. So FAR.AS for my parents, I'm leaning toward paying for specific medical treatments directly to the providers but maintaining emotional distance. The business they and Alex ran into the ground is not my responsibility to save, and their response to my reasonable conditions speaks volumes about how little has really changed in our dynamic. I've also decided to send a brief, factual email to the extended family members who were copied on my father's original message, simply stating that I am addressing my parents' medical needs privately and directly, and that family matters are complex and not always as they appear from the outside. I won't be sharing the full story. It's not about winning a PR battle, but I won't allow my father's narrative to stand unchallenged either. Thank you all for your perspectives and support. It's given me clarity during what has been an intensely confusing and emotional time. I'll update again after meeting with Emma if there's interest. Edit 3, final update, at least for now. I met with Emma last weekend at a public park with playgrounds, as Rachel suggested. Rachel stayed at a distance after introducing us, giving us space to talk privately while remaining in sight for Emma's comfort. I was terrified and nearly backed out several times, but I'm incredibly glad I went through with it. Emma is a remarkable child, bright, thoughtful, and perceptive in a way that reminded me more of myself at that age than either of her biological parents. The physical resemblance to Alex is undeniable, which was initially jarring, but her personality couldn't be more different from his. She was shy at first but warmed up quickly when I mentioned remembering the dinosaur book she used to love. Her eyes lit up, and she asked, "Did you really do all the funny voices?" When I did the T-Rex voice from the book, she burst into giggles, saying, "I remember that one." We spent about 2 hours together. She showed me her science fair project on the solar system. She's fascinated by astronomy and can name all of Jupiter's moons. She told me about her friends, her school, and how she wants to be a scientist when she grows up. She asked straightforward questions about when she was a baby. Did I like being her dad? Why didn't I visit her? Did I ever think about her? I answered as honestly as I could while being age appropriate. I told her I had loved being her dad very much, that adult relationships are complicated sometimes, and that I had thought about her often over the years. I didn't disparage Rachel or Alex but didn't lie either. I simply said that sometimes adults make mistakes that hurt other adults, and sometimes those mistakes have consequences that last a long time. At one point, she said something that broke my heart. "Mom says you're not my biological dad, but you were my dad for a while." Can someone have two dads? Not like divorced dads who take turns, but two real dads? I told her that family comes in all different forms, and what makes someone a real parent is love and care, not just biology. She seemed satisfied with that answer. At the end of our meeting, she asked if we could talk again sometime. I said yes, we could arrange that if her mom agreed. She hugged me goodbye, something I wasn't prepared for emotionally, but that felt healing in a way I hadn't expected. As for my parents, I've arranged to pay directly for my father's cancer treatments not covered by insurance and for additional in-home care for my mother. I made it clear to them that this is not the beginning of ongoing financial support or a full reconciliation. My father was coldly grateful for the assistance, while my mother sent an emotional email about how this was the first step back to being a family. I haven't responded to that particular sentiment. I've had no direct contact with Alex, though I've heard through family that he's furious I'm inserting myself back into Emma's life.